Whenever anyone offered a sacrifice, Eli's sons would send over a servant with a three-pronged fork. While the meat of the sacred animal was still boiling, the servant would stick the fork into the pot and demand that whatever it brought up be given to Eli's sons. Sometimes the servant would come even before the animal's fat had been burned on the altar. The man offering the sacrifice might reply, "Take as much as you want, but the fat must be burned first." Then the servant would demand, "No, give it to me now, or I'll take it by force." Big no-nos going on the part of Eli's sons here. What's up, cool people? My name's Matt. Welcome back to our Bible study. All right. 1 Samuel chapter 2. So, last chapter we had Hannah here who was upset at the fact that she didn't have any children because her husband's other wife had had multiple children by that point and was basically rubbing it in her face and making fun of her because of it. So she, the 1 year that they went to, give yearly sacrifices to the Lord, she kind of stepped aside at one point and prayed that God would give her a son. And she even went as far as saying that she would dedicate her son to the Lord, like as a tabernacle assistant, or an assistant to the priests or whatever. But then, after that, she was assured that it would happen by the priest who was there. So then it happened. She had the son. She brought him up for a few years and then dedicated him the way that she promised. And as much as that situation between Hannah and the other wife, whose name I'm blanking on at the moment, Penina, I think it was. Anyway, as much as that situation might kind of sound like the tension that happened between Jacob's wives, Rachel and Leah, it was not the same. Not the same people, anyway. Similar kind of idea, just different people. One of those things that isn't just a one-time event in the Bible. Or at least that kind of situation. But, anyway. Alright, so, we've kind of got the context now for chapter 2, and now that Hannah has officially dedicated her son Samuel to the Lord to, help the priests, then we get to this, and what she says here. So, 1 Samuel chapter 2. Then Hannah prayed, "My heart rejoices in the Lord. The Lord has made me strong. Now I have an answer for my enemies. I rejoice because you rescued me. No one is holy like the Lord. There is no one besides you. There is no rock like our God. Stop acting so proud and haughty. Don't speak with such arrogance. For the Lord is a God who knows what you have done. He will judge your actions. The bow of the mighty is now broken, and those who stumbled are now strong. Those who were well fed are now starving, and those who were starving are now full. The childless woman now has 7 children, and the woman with many children wastes away. The Lord gives both death and life. He brings some down to the grave, but raises others up. The Lord makes some poor and others rich. He brings some down and lifts others up. He lifts the poor from the dust, and the needy from the garbage dump. He sets them among princes, placing them in seats of honor. For all the earth is the Lord's, and he has set the world in order. You know what? I think I'm just going to read this whole thing. He will protect his faithful ones, but the wicked will disappear in darkness. No one will succeed by strength alone. Those who fight against the Lord will be shattered. He thunders against them from heaven. The Lord judges throughout the earth. He gives power to his king. He increases the strength of his anointed one. Then Elkanah returned home to Ramah without Samuel, and the boy served the Lord by assisting Eli the priest. Okay, so just seemed like it was appropriate to get that all out at once, because first of all, interrupting prayer, not polite, not a good thing. Real quick, let me check on footnotes. Hebrew says, rather than the Lord has made me strong, it might say, the Lord has exalted my horn. It's still kind of a similar idea, though, I guess, because horns were, I believe, a sign of strength, or at least, I mean, they were definitely used for, like, army signals or things like that. So even if just in that way, they were kind of a sign of strength. Footnote there, the Hebrew says to Sheol rather than to the grave. I guess you could say it's the same general gist. Sheol, though, was kind of the Old Testament Hebrew concept of what happened in the afterlife, though. I'm going to air quote afterlife, I don't know. But it was basically like, okay, well, you die, you just kind of go into the ground, and that's where you permanently reside then. Sheol has also sometimes been interpreted as, like, the pit. So it could have been, like, think of, the in the Greek pantheon, think of, like, Hades underworld kind of situation, but with kind of sprinklings of the Catholic purgatory sort of idea. It was just like a permanent in the ground, or perhaps underground, place of eternal residence that didn't necessarily have a good or bad aspect to it. So it's not like the same thing as hell that we would think of. But anyway, the point of bringing that up is, she's talking about the Lord gives both death and life, bringing some down to the grave, meaning like to their, eternal, non-earthly fates. Footnote there, its strength. Hebrew also says he exalts the horn of his anointed one rather than he increases their strength. But anyway, so this is pretty much more praise, you could say, than typical prayer. A lot of times you say prayer, you think of like a request to God or something more like that. This is more positive, kind of extolling the virtues of the Lord. So she prays this prayer, and then they return home without Samuel because they left Samuel there. On to verse 12. Now the sons of Eli were scoundrels who had no respect for the Lord. That verse number there really had me thinking there should be a pause there. So they had no respect for the Lord or for their duties as priests. Whenever anyone offered a sacrifice, Eli's sons would send over a servant with a 3-pronged fork. While the meat of the sacred animal was still boiling, the servant would stick the fork into the pot and demand that whatever it brought up be given to Eli's sons. All the Israelites who came to worship at Shiloh were treated this way. Sometimes the servant would come even before the animal's fat had been burned on the altar. He would demand raw meat before it had been boiled so that it could be used for roasting. The man offering the sacrifice might reply, Take as much as you want, but the fat must be burned first." Then the servant would demand, "No, give it to me now, or I'll take it by force." So the sin of these young men was very serious in the Lord's sight, for they treated the Lord's offerings with contempt. Yeah, the big no-nos going on the part of Eli's sons here. None of this was really supposed to be happening. Yes, there was a portion of the offerings that was supposed to go to the priests, but it wasn't supposed to be like a preemptive kind of thing. It was still supposed to be prepared on the altar, at least to my knowledge and recollection. Either way, the fat was definitely supposed to be burned, but the fact that this servant and Eli's sons wouldn't even honor that much. It specifically mentions the burning of the fat as a fragrant offering to the Lord. It was supposed to be kind of symbolic of the scent and the smoke or whatever from the fat was actually supposed to, in a way, kind of symbolize, I think, the offering, the prayers, all that kind of stuff going up to the Lord, so that, the sacrifice in some small way actually kind of got there and was communicated fully to God. So if they didn't even let that happen, it, in a way, it could be thought of as that, these sons and their servant weren't even letting the offering really make its way up to God. But, yeah. Definitely not good stuff. They were just being selfish, greedy, and uncaring about the whole process. Anyway, verse 18. But Samuel, though he was only a boy, served the Lord. He wore a linen garment like that of a priest. Each year his mother made a small coat for him and brought it to him when she came with her husband for the sacrifice. Before they returned home, Eli would bless Elkanah and his wife and say, "May the Lord give you other children to take the place of this one she gave to the Lord." And the Lord blessed Hannah, and she conceived and gave birth to 3 sons and 2 daughters. Meanwhile, Samuel grew up in the presence of the Lord. So, because Hannah, gave her first son to the Lord, Eli, understands the blessing that was and kind of returns at least a verbal blessing. And so, she's then able to have even more children, even though she completely didn't, maybe even couldn't before. But it seems like Samuel was far more respectful of the priestly duties than even Eli's sons, who were supposed to be priests themselves. Footnotes. Hebrews says he wore a linen ephod rather than just linen garment, but that's just kind of the name of the priestly garment anyway. Same deal, essentially. May the Lord give you other children to take the place of this one you gave to the Lord. That's how it reads in the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the Greek version, Masoretic text reads, "This one he requested of the Lord." May the Lord give you other children to take the place of this one he requested of the Lord. I don't know. The wording there seems a little weird. But I assume it's kind of the same general gist. I mean, they were talking about Samuel there anyway. Alrighty. Verse 22. Now Eli was very old, but he was aware of what his sons were doing to the people of Israel. He knew, for instance, that his sons were seducing the young women who assisted at the entrance of the tabernacle. Eli said to them, "I've been hearing reports from all the people about the wicked things you are doing. Why do you keep sinning? You must stop, my sons. The reports I hear among the Lord's people are not good. If someone sins against another person, God can mediate for the guilty party. But if someone sins against the Lord, who can intercede?" But Eli's sons wouldn't listen to their father, for the Lord was already planning to put them to death. Meanwhile, the boy Samuel grew taller and grew in favor with the Lord and with the people. So just further hammering home the previous couple of paragraphs that Eli's sons didn't really care to do things the way they were supposed to, but Samuel did. Footnote there. Okay, it says tent of meeting instead of tabernacle. But that was kind of just the name for it. Anyway. I gotta say, so far the first couple of chapters of 1 Samuel have had way more footnotes than most of the other books of the Bible previously. See, that says the judges rather than God can mediate. Which there were people, usually priests, but maybe also other like kind of tribal leaders and whatnot, who could, officiate, if there were people doing bad things to each other, kind of how we would think of a judge today. But the point was, like, there's nobody to mediate if you sin directly against God. Anyway. Okay. On to verse 27. One day a man of God came to Eli and gave him this message from the Lord. "I revealed myself to your ancestors when they were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt. I chose your ancestor Aaron from among all the tribes of Israel to be my priest, to offer sacrifices on my altar, to burn incense, and to wear the priestly vest as he served me. And I assigned the sacrificial offerings to you priests. So why do you scorn my sacrifices and offerings? Why do you give your sons more honor than you give me? For you and they have become fat from the best offerings of my people Israel." So Eli wasn't necessarily maybe doing the greatest job here either. I mean, he clearly wasn't doing great with disciplining his sons. That last sentence there almost implies that Eli maybe was taking a little more than he was really supposed to as well. This is, it just says a man of God. I don't know. Somebody who followed God came to him one day and said that there was this message from the Lord. So saying I revealed myself, obviously that's supposed to be kind of God speaking to Eli here. Footnotes. As in Greek and Syriac. Hebrew reads, "Did I reveal myself?" Kind of a hypothetical or rhetorical, I guess is the better word. Kind of a rhetorical question of like, oh, didn't I do this? So why are you disobeying me when I did all these things? Still the same general gist. Hebrew says your father instead of your ancestor Aaron. But that's like Aaron is the one who's sort of implied by that statement anyway. footnote there at priestly vest. Hebrew says ephod. That was just what the priestly vest was called. Anyway, so yeah, God notices that things aren't being done the way they're supposed to be. Then we get to verse 30, which is continuing this whole speech to Eli. Therefore, the Lord, the God of Israel, says, I promised that your branch of the tribe of Levi would always be my priests. But I will honor those who honor me, and I will despise those who think lightly of me. The time is coming when I put an end to your family, so it will no longer serve as my priests. All the members of your family will die before their time. None will reach old age. You will watch with envy as I pour out prosperity on the people of Israel, but no members of your family will ever live out their days. The few not cut off from serving at my altar will survive, but only so their eyes can go blind and their hearts break, and their children will die a violent death. And to prove that what I have said will come true, I will cause your 2 sons, Hophni and Phinehas, to die on the same day. Then I will raise up a faithful priest who will serve me and do what I desire. I will establish his family, and they will be priests to my anointed kings forever. Then all of your surviving family will bow before him, begging for money and food. Please, they will say, give us jobs among the priests, so we will have enough to eat. And that's actually where the chapter ends. It feels like maybe there's more that's supposed to go into that, or maybe it'll just get into the fulfillment of all of this. So, God's basically saying to Eli that, I said before the tribe of Levi would permanently be my priests. But as for Eli and his family, at least, and probably any others who were disobeying God, not doing things the right way, that they would essentially be cut off, that they would die at young ages, and that God would essentially weed them all out. So, yeah, not exactly looking good for them, but, it would look bad for God to leave such things unpunished, because these are his chosen priests among his chosen people. So, there's a double stack of expectations to live the way that God expects. But Eli's family wasn't doing that. So, then I guess he says he'll raise up a faithful priest. Makes you wonder if that's going to be Samuel, given the way that this has been tracking so far. Hint, hint, that's pretty much who it's going to be. I mean, the book is called 1 Samuel. But, anyway, footnotes, good grief. The tribe of Levi, Hebrew says that your house and your father's house, I promise that your house and your father's house would always be my priests. But father's house referring to the lineage being the tribe of Levi. So, same general gist. Looking for more footnotes. I know there's at least one more. Shoot, let me just go all the way down here, because, okay, that was footnote K. There's only one other. And it is located right here. Gotcha. So, at the end of this verse, that's how it reads in the Dead Sea Scrolls in the Greek version, which read, die by the sword, rather than... So even those versions say die by the sword, rather than just die a violent death. Masoretic text reads, die like mortals, which that doesn't really describe much of anything, because being mortal just means that you die. But I guess rather than, dying a respectable, honorable death, the point was that they would die, again, at probably a young age, and, in a way that is not like just an easygoing kind of time. It would be a quick, sudden, unexpected, probably even violent death. And it's going to start with Eli's sons. But that has not happened as of yet. Perhaps we will get to that in the next chapter. But that's all that 1 Samuel chapter 2 says. Alright, so Samuel's officially helping out in the tabernacle now. And it honestly seems like he's doing a better job of fulfilling priestly duties, or at least helping the priests, than even Eli's own sons, who are supposed to basically be born into that role. And, they're the actual priests. Samuel is not. But Samuel seems to have more respect and care for the, religious procedures than Eli's own sons. So, and because of that, or at least because of their lack of care about all that, Eli is now hearing from, I don't know if he was a prophet, it just calls him a man of God, but anyway, he hears a message that basically his sons are going to die at the same time, and then other people in his family, and maybe even in the broader priesthood, are also going to be stricken either dead or with some sort of either blindness or other lack of ability to really continue going about their priestly duties properly. Because it's not just his sons, apparently, that have been, flippant about all that. But anyway, yeah. So we'll have to see how that develops. But that will probably come in future chapters. So anyway, as always, like and share if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell if you're on YouTube to get updates when I post new videos. If you're seeing this anywhere else, give me a follow or whatever you need to for that platform. Wherever you're seeing this, look down in the description to get info on other social media pages and all that good stuff. And leave comments down below there with any thoughts you have. So that'll do it for now. Hope you're all doing well. Hopefully I'll see you soon for another video. Whatever the case is, till next time, stay cool, people.